to that level, right? So we're talking about the limitations of strength and conditioning and all that sort of stuff. How many, like, can you, and you don't have to name names, but I'd like to hear one name, like players that kind of sucked in the gym, sucked at S&C, but just on the field, that you worked with personally. So don't just say Andy Good, that sucked in the gym, sucked in S&C, but actually when it came to performing, they were like outstanding.
Leonardo Senatore, he's retired now, so I'll say his name. The same year that he turned in a man of the match performance against Australia and we won our first championship game, his max back squat was 130 kilos at 105 kilos body weight.
What position was he?
He was number 8.
Think about it. Right. So that's so important for people to listen and understand. Like, getting attached to weights and stuff is so, obviously they're listening to a rugby strength and conditioning podcast. So, they're going to be a bit biased to liking a bit of weights, but understanding the limitations that has is really, really, really important. So that's why
he was a smoker too, and he liked to get pissed. Listen, you do need to be strong. You do need to have certain outputs in order to hang as an international rugby player, but the barrier to entry is much, much lower than people think. And once you've cleared that barrier, spending additional time and energy trying to pump those numbers up, if you lack or if you have a limiting factor elsewhere within the system, is a fool's errand. So I'll tell you one thing about Leo. He was a awesome rugby player, and mentally you couldn't touch him. Absolute alpha male. I had another guy on that team, Horacio Aguja, probably in the region of 100 mils over 8 sites body fat. So I personally witnessed him in a World Cup year in camp. His breakfast was 2 slices of white bread, buttered. He took packets of sugar from the coffee machine and poured them on the bread and ate that, and then a glass of orange juice. And this is a guy who, when he was a kid, he had one leg, I think it was like 2 centimeters longer than the other, and they had to break his pelvis and all this kind of stuff to get his legs. So his nickname in Spanish was the Limp. So if you look at what he did, I want to say he had 60 caps. He went to 3 World Cups, and David Flatman said that he was pound for pound the strongest hitter in the Premiership.
Jeez, yeah.
So it goes to show.
And again, this is sort of the quantifiable element taken out, right? In a way, it was a traditional quantifiable method, should I say?
Exactly. Yeah. The reason we lean so heavily on those physical metrics is because they're easy to measure. Yeah. And they're 100%. Easy to, for the most part, easy to improve the training. So when you're hinging you're justifying your existence and hinging your self-worth and your ability to improve certain numbers, you're going to pick the ones that are easiest to improve. So you probably can quantify fairly objectively stuff like, psychological qualities that contribute to mental toughness, like tactical, technical understanding. You can probably rank athletes if you ask good enough questions and try and come up with like robust enough processes to do it. It's just really, really hard to do. And it's really, really hard to improve that stuff with training, because most strength coaches, if you had a debate and said, if you had to pick between a big back squat or lightning fast, they'll pick fast, right?
Right.
So why is it that we justify our existence with strength numbers as opposed to speed numbers? And the answer is that you can push up somebody's 1RM 50% in a year if they've got a low training age. Whereas if you make somebody 15% faster over a career, you're probably one of the world's best.
And not many people notice. Like on the front end.
It's really hard to do. It's really hard.
Yeah. I guess that kind of throws the question out of like, so you've worked with, elite S&C all over the world, and you've, you named a few people here that, like, when you talk about elite S&C, the numbers they're putting up and the way they live their lifestyle is probably a shock to some of the people that are listening to this. But like, how much more common is that versus, you know, the guy that squats triple body weight or even 2.5 body weight, but isn't very good on the field? Do they still exist in a professional environment?
Absolutely. You know,
don't name names on that one.
in the pros, no.
Yes.
I mean, what you'll tend to find is that it's been very, very, very rare that any athlete in any position of the teams that I've worked with, that the best athlete in that position was also putting up the best numbers in you know, even in speed or explosive strength or in the gym. It just didn't match up that way. When you do tend to find that, it tends to be a world-class individual because they're literally like across the board, like a 9 to a 10 out of 10. What you do find all the time at the lower levels is guys that either naturally just crush it in the physical stuff and they're quite poor athletes, into like games players, and they've, you know, they don't necessarily want to expose their weakness. They want to double down on their strengths and do what they're good at. And then you've got a lot of people at the lower levels that mistakenly think that just because an elite level athlete is bigger, stronger, faster, fitter than them, that bridging the gap to be more like that is going to be the difference, when in reality it's just they happen to be a way better player of that sport than you, and they happen to be bigger, stronger, faster, fitter.
Yeah, but and that being the better player of the sport allowed them to have the opportunity to then refine everything else to get that much bigger, faster, stronger, fitter, etc. And then they can keep working, you know,
for the sports teams that are selecting those guys, it's free money. So if you're the coach and you say, oh, you want a guy that's a masterful player of the sport who's, again, looks like me, 5'10", 180, slow twitch king, or do you want somebody who's a masterful player of the sport who's 6'4", 110 kilos and can jump out the gym? You were like, oh, give me the second player.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's a causative factor. It's just free money.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that I think a lot of people miss. What you said is the key, though. It's like there's so many different areas that you just have to pay the price of entry, right? You know, be big enough, be strong enough, be fast enough, and then solve the situations that we spoke about before, however suits you and your team as a player, or if you're the coach, figure out what your team is, how your team would best go about solving those problems.